It was a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone in life, moved at its own unhurried pace. But lately, something unusual had captured everyone's attention. Every morning, like clockwork, a sleek black car would roll up to an abandoned garage at the edge of the street. The man behind the wheel, a millionaire always dressed impeccably, with an air of mystery about him. By his side, a young black girl, her bright smile and curious demeanor a stark contrast to the dilapidated building they visited. The neighbors couldn't help but wonder, why would someone like him spend time in a rundown place like that? Whispers of speculation spread like wildfire. Was he hiding something? Was she in danger? The rumors grew more wild and outrageous with each passing day. But one neighbor decided to dig a little deeper. At first, they only observed from a distance, trying to piece together the puzzle. What could possibly draw these two to such an unlikely spot? Then one day, their curiosity got the better of them, and they ventured closer, determined to uncover the truth. What they discovered inside that garage left them completely stunned. It was nothing like anyone had imagined, and it would change the way they saw both the man and the girl forever. Stay tuned to find out the shocking reason behind these mysterious daily visits. The truth will surprise you more than you can imagine. The neighbor couldn't shake the curiosity gnawing at them. Every morning, they'd watch from their window, trying to figure out what the man and the girl were doing. Sometimes they'd see the man carrying large boxes into the garage, while the girl skipped happily beside him. Other times, faint sounds of music or laughter would drift out from behind the garage's rusted doors. It didn't add up. The garage itself had been abandoned for years, an eyesore in an otherwise tidy neighborhood. Its faded paint, shattered windows, and overgrown weeds made it clear that nobody had cared for the place in ages. And yet, here was this man, wealthy, polished, and clearly capable of being anywhere else, choosing to come here every single day. Why? The neighbors speculated endlessly. Some thought he might be hiding valuables in the garage, using the girl as a distraction. Others whispered about secret business deals or even illegal activities. But none of it explained the warmth between the man and the girl, or the joy that seemed to surround their visits. One particularly nosy neighbor decided to dig deeper, discreetly following them one morning. They parked their car a safe distance away and watched as the pair entered the garage, the girl clutching a bright blue backpack. The neighbor crept closer, heart pounding, and caught a glimpse through a crack in the garage door. Inside, they could barely make out what looked like rows of neatly arranged tools and what seemed to be artwork hanging on the walls. But before they could make sense of it, the man turned sharply, as if sensing someone nearby. The neighbor ducked behind a bush, heart racing, unsure of whether to run or stay hidden. What was going on in there? The neighbor stayed crouched behind the bush, their mind racing with questions. Why did the man turn so suddenly? Had he noticed someone spying on him, or was it just instinct? The silence that followed was almost unbearable. For what felt like an eternity, nothing happened. And then faintly, the sound of a child's laughter broke the tension. It was the girl. Her laugh wasn't just carefree, it was joyful, the kind that made you wonder what could inspire such happiness in a place so rundown. Unable to contain their curiosity, the neighbor decided to return the next morning, this time with a plan. They brought binoculars and a notebook, determined to document every detail. As the black car pulled up, they saw the man step out, holding a large canvas under one arm and a bag in the other. The girl hopped out with her backpack again, her face lighting up as they entered the garage. Hours passed, but this time the neighbor noticed something strange. Other cars started pulling up, stopping briefly before driving away. A man with a tool belt walked in, followed by a woman carrying fresh flowers. Each visitor stayed for only a short while, but they all left smiling, as if they'd witnessed something remarkable inside. It wasn't long before the neighbor overheard others in the community talking about the garage too. People wondered if it was some sort of secret club or underground gathering. Some were intrigued, while others worried it could bring trouble to the neighborhood. But for the neighbor who'd been watching, the mystery had only deepened. Why were these visitors coming and going? And why did they seem so moved by whatever was happening inside that crumbling garage? The neighbor couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of uncovering something big. Day after day, they watched the strange activity at the garage escalate. The visitors became more frequent, and their appearances more varied. Some were well-dressed, others in casual clothes. Each carried something different: books, tools, paint cans, even musical instruments. It was as if the garage had turned into a hub of some secret operation. One evening, just as the sun was setting, the neighbor noticed a delivery truck pull up to the garage. Two workers unloaded a heavy crate while the man directed them inside. The girl stood nearby, clapping her hands excitedly. The crate was enormous, almost as tall as the door itself. What could possibly be inside? The neighbor's mind raced with possibilities: artifacts, machinery, or something even more mysterious. Later that night, unable to resist any longer, the neighbor decided to get closer than ever before. Armed with a flashlight and their phone, they crept through the shadows until they were just a few feet from the garage's side window. Peering inside, they saw the man and the girl carefully unpacking the crate. It was filled with supplies: paint, wood, and tools, but also something unexpected: a collection of photographs and old journals. The man handled each item with care, explaining something to the girl as they worked together. She seemed enthralled, pointing to the journals and asking questions. But just as the neighbor leaned in for a better look, their foot slipped on a loose rock, sending it skittering noisily across the pavement. The noise was enough to alert the man. His head snapped toward the window, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the area. The neighbor froze, heart pounding, certain they had been caught. The neighbor's breath caught in their throat as the man stepped closer to the window. His sharp eyes scanned the area with an intensity that made it clear he wasn't someone easily fooled. The neighbor crouched lower, praying the shadows would conceal them. For a moment, it seemed like he was about to step outside, but then the girl called out to him, holding up one of the old journals. Whatever she said made him pause, his attention shifting back to her. With a final glance toward the window, he turned away and resumed unpacking. Relieved but still shaken, the neighbor retreated to a safer distance. From there, they watched as the pair continued working late into the night. Something about the way the man handled those items, almost reverently, suggested they were far more significant than they appeared. What could those journals hold? Secrets? A hidden story? The mystery only deepened. The next day, everything changed. A sleek SUV, different from the usual visitors, arrived at the garage. Two men in suits stepped out, their serious expressions setting them apart from the others. The man greeted them at the door, but this time, his demeanor was different: tense, guarded. The girl stayed inside, peeking out occasionally but keeping her distance. The neighbor's curiosity burned hotter than ever. Who were these men? They didn't stay long, but whatever conversation they had with the man left him visibly unsettled. As soon as they drove off, he closed the garage doors tightly, something he'd never done before. That night, the garage stayed dark, no lights or laughter spilling out. It was as if the heart of the mystery had suddenly gone silent, and the neighbor couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. The following morning, the neighbor noticed something unusual. The garage door was slightly ajar. The man's car was parked outside, but there was no sign of him or the girl. The neighbors' curiosity overwhelmed them. This was their chance to finally uncover what had been happening behind those doors. Heart pounding, they crept toward the garage, pausing to listen for any sounds. Hearing nothing, they cautiously stepped inside. What they saw took their breath away. The inside of the garage had been transformed into a vibrant, colorful space. The walls were covered in murals, each one depicting scenes of hope, resilience, and community. The tools and supplies had been used to build furniture, fix broken toys, and create what looked like a mobile art exhibit. In one corner, there was a makeshift library stocked with the journals and photographs the neighbor had seen earlier. Then it clicked. This wasn't just a garage, it was a sanctuary. The man and the girl had been working to create a space where stories could be preserved, art could thrive, and people could find joy in the smallest of things. It explained the visitors, too, locals contributing their time and resources to the cause. Just as the neighbor was piecing it all together, the man appeared in the doorway, startling them. For a moment, his face was unreadable, but then he smiled. "You've been watching, haven't you?" he said, his voice calm. Before the neighbor could stammer a reply, the girl ran up, holding out a painting she had made. "This is for you," she said. The neighbor looked at the painting, a depiction of the neighborhood coming together, and felt a pang of guilt mixed with awe. As they thanked the girl, the man added softly, "Sometimes all it takes is a little curiosity to make a big difference." But just as they were leaving, a small detail caught their eye. A familiar logo on one of the journals, belonging to a long-closed community center that had mysteriously burned down years ago. The neighbor turned to ask about it, but the man and the girl were already back at work, their laughter echoing through the space. The mystery, it seemed, wasn't entirely solved after all. The neighbor walked home with the girl's painting in hand, their thoughts swirling. The garage, the man, and the girl weren't what anyone had imagined. It wasn't about wealth or secrecy, it was about transformation. That abandoned space had become a place of purpose, bringing people together in ways the neighbor hadn't seen in years. The painting now felt like a reminder of how much could be accomplished with small acts of kindness and creativity. Over the next few weeks, the neighbor noticed subtle changes in the neighborhood. The once quiet community seemed livelier, with people smiling more and chatting with each other. The garage became an open space on weekends, inviting everyone to participate. Children painted murals, older residents shared stories, and local musicians played music, filling the air with a sense of unity. The man never sought recognition for what he'd done, and the girl simply enjoyed every moment, her laughter becoming a familiar and welcome sound. As for the journals with the mysterious logo, the neighbor eventually discovered their story through the man. The community center that had burned down years ago had been a significant part of his childhood. The journals belonged to the people who had built it, and he'd been determined to honor their legacy by creating something just as meaningful. The twist. The girl was the granddaughter of one of those individuals, unknowingly continuing the story her family had started. Standing outside the garage one evening, the neighbor watched the vibrant scene unfold. They smiled, realizing how much this experience had changed their perspective. Sometimes curiosity leads to answers you don't expect, but those answers can inspire something far greater. And with that thought, they stepped inside, ready to join the story in progress.